What's good, my people? Flash Speaks back. Another video, man. And this here is real talk. It seems like I don't know what it is, but like I almost feel like I'm forced into this role where I gotta like kind of hold it down for the Sixers fans, man. The Sixers fans who are willing to be level headed about what's going on, who are not going to be affected by what has happened in the past or, traumatized by the lingering effects of losing, not winning a title since 1983 when we had that bomb squad with Julius Irving and Moses Malone and Andrew Toney and Maurice Cheeks and Bobby Jones and so on and so forth. I think, man, we have developed this loser mentality that we always almost expect to lose. We don't expect anything good to happen. And then you got some of the young bucks who weren't even alive back in 83. Even me in 83, I was about 6 years old. So, and I do remember it, man. I remember coming downstairs and watching my mom and the old heads, uncles, and everybody talking about Philadelphia 76ers, talking about that team. I remember being excited to watch Dr. J. I didn't even understand the game at that time, but I just wanted to see that man dunk. Anyway, we're going to talk about this game, this loss to the Toronto Raptors, what happened. Listen, man, I get it. We lost the game. Started out hot as hell, tearing them up in the first quarter, as you see here. Maxey started off hot, continuing from the last game. Even Harden made some points. Danny Green was hot, scored 18 points. Tobias Harris started still making threes. So on and so forth, man. And it looked like we were going to watch these dudes, get them out of here. Somewhere around the second quarter, you saw that the Toronto Raptors started to settle down. They took our initial bombardment and made some adjustments, I suppose, tightened up their defense. And then they made a run to tie it up. The game stayed close throughout. And then in the end, the last team who made a run was the Toronto Raptors. They found a weakness in our team on the defense, and that was the Tyrese Maxey, Gary Trent matchup, which they exploited, and they were able to come away with the win. And then Toronto Raptors ended up winning the season series 3-1. And now this got Philadelphia Sixers fans as well as local media people who aren't really fans talking a whole bunch of crap. Scared. Some people even talking about they want to avoid the Toronto Raptors. Listen, man, let me explain something to y'all. And this is not to say that you can't learn anything from regular season games, from random nights out in Toronto. But y'all dudes is tripping. I'm going to tell you right now. If the Sixers face the Toronto Raptors in the playoffs, the Sixers will either beat Toronto 4-1 or 4-2. Now I'm going to repeat that again. If the Sixers play the Toronto Raptors in the playoffs in the first round, the Sixers will beat the Toronto Raptors either 4-1 or 4-2. And really, y'all all know that. We all really know this. But we are so passionate, man. And I get it. We're so affected by what happens in regular season games. And I get it. That we don't fall back on the common sense that we have and the truth that we already do for sure know. And that is that the Philadelphia 76ers are one of the most talented teams, not only in the Eastern Conference, but in the whole NBA. Especially when we talk about the starting 1 through 5. And in my opinion, when it comes to the bench, I believe this idea that the Sixers have nobody off the bench is completely an overrated, overstated issue as well. Because when you really look at the situation with the bench, we're counting bench points. But if you look at the way Doc Rivers actually runs the team, Look at the bench right now. This is the bench lineup there. You see Paul Reed in there. You see Maxey in there. You see Harden in there. You see Tobias in there. The way Doc Rivers is running the offense or running the bench and distributing the minutes, he keeps certain starters in there all the time. And because of that, it still started scoring, right? In other words, there is no all bench unit. So this idea that, the bench doesn't score, it's more so a reason. The reason is really because Harden is still controlling the ball and looking for his points at that time, or Tobias is in there looking for his points at that time. Whatever the case may be, we're still counting on the starters to score. So it isn't like the bench is going to come in and take the ball from Harden, take the ball from Tobias, take the ball from Maxey. That's really what's happening. That's what Doc Rivers alluded to that time when he was asked about the bench, and he said, well, it's really James. And it's not a knock on James Harden at that time. It was more so because James Harden is the one controlling that bench unit. So if the bench isn't scoring, a lot of it has to do with James Harden not utilizing those guys. That's really what he meant by that. But, the media has their job to be instigators and to start trouble, to start crap. That's what they're going to do. All right. But what I'm expecting us to be is better than that. You see, we're not getting paid to talk crap about the Sixers. We're not getting paid to instigate. So us who are not media members should not be doing that. We have no incentive to do that. We got to keep grounded and keep firm and keep real. All right. When you look at the situation with the Toronto Raptors, like I said, at the end of the day, look at this here. We're talking about third quarter. Sixers up 72-69. Look at the sets here. They're still trying to fight the ball into Embiid. Maxey decides to take it, right? That's good. So now we're up 75-71. Now this is where the problems started to happen. All right, you got Siakam there attacking our transition defense. Defense not set. When our defense isn't set, you see the Sixers don't have a bad defense. The Sixers have a bad transition defense, which can aid in that being a bad defense. But it's really a bad transition defense. All right, Toronto was smart by attacking it. What happened was we did not put in a guy to stop Siakam. You have different people on Siakam. You have Tobias, which isn't really a bad matchup for him. See, there Siakam made a shot that he's not going to generally make. He kind of started to catch fire. That was a bad turnover right there by Maxey. But what started to happen, we allowed Siakam to score 37 points, which is very uncharacteristic for him. All right? But here, we're kind of like on a seesaw. But this is the thing. Toronto is not a great team, but Toronto is a playoff team. Typically, playoff teams at home win their games. This is the thing we can't lose sight of to the point where we're jumping off of the Walt Whitman Bridge or the Ben Franklin Bridge because of. Here, now they try Paul Reed on him. Everybody who wants Paul Reed in there, he gave Paul Reed the business on that play. What we're missing a lot of is the Gary Trent on Maxey matchup, which I think was the missing element there. And this is not to get on Maxey. I think Maxey, he's just going to have to focus on his defense this offseason. I think last offseason he focused on his efficiency scoring. He focused on his shooting for sure. He's gotten that to a point where, to me, he's one of the best shooters on the team. Here you had George laying off of this young guy here. Forgive me for forgetting his name. But what you had was Toronto running good sets, running good pick and rolls, and beating us on that. But it isn't a talent discrepancy or anything like that, like some of the dummies were saying on some of the radio shows. It isn't like that. We're way more talented than Toronto. But talent alone doesn't always do it. You still have to play good basketball. And this wasn't like the type of win where Toronto is showing you any sort of superiority. It's one of those games you just lost the damn game. And then Siakam throwing up stuff. Like, hey, come on. All right. Then there must have been a bad possession, I'm assuming, what happened. Then here, this was what? Maxey on Trent. And Maxey, it's not that he's bad, it's not that he's lazy, it's just that he's small. He's just small. What he has to do is study some of the smaller defenders. Let me pause this for a second. What Maxey needs to do is study some of the smaller defenders in the league and learn some of their techniques and utilize some of that to improve his defense. Right. He's going to be a disadvantage just certain nights. That's just the way it is. If you're going up against a team with a two guard that is bigger, and you can't always hide him, sometimes he's going to have to buckle down and just play defense. Here you see our defense is set. Right, they're running around the pick and roll, and that's bad there. What I want to see there, let me back this up again. Right. What you want to see here, oh goodness, not far enough. Forgive me for that there. What you want to see here is Danny Green step up harder, and then Harden anticipate that and be ready to steal the ball, because you have to have IQ on defense just like on offense. Here, there's just not lucky crap. I mean, he pulled up and shooting the ball like he's Kevin Durant, and then he started to stretch the lead out here. All right. Maxey made an excellent shot there by Maxey. Adding that, you think about it, we still got it up to 3. And then Siakam just being uncharacteristic, throwing up stuff here. I think I may have gone back a little too far, actually. And then you got Embiid on. Okay, yeah, Trent is just a little too big for Maxey there. And Danny Green, this is why Danny Green here. All right, yeah, Harden just got beat. He just got beat like a drum. That wasn't even like and that's what you don't want to see. Harden has to do a better job on that one. And here they're just making uncharacteristic shots. Like, if you think the Toronto Raptors are going to do that in the series, I mean, you're sorely mistaken. They're not going to make the shots like that they were making. That's not even their game. Though they do have some decent shooters. And I get it, Van Fleet didn't play. But I believe they're actually a weaker team with Van Fleet, because you see, when Van Fleet is in there, that's the guy you're going to want to put Maxey on. That'll make it, a more even matchup. I think they're more dangerous with Trent because he's taller. For us in general, I'm not saying Trent is as good as Van Fleet, but what I'm saying is the way, in particular, when they match up with the Sixers, we are at a disadvantage with him and Maxey defensively. All right. Then Embiid, bullies them. What will happen in the playoff series is that the Sixers would buckle down and beat Toronto. There's no doubt about that. Now, Toronto, they may win a couple of games at home, and Embiid, that's just he got played by Siakam. But what happens in the series is players adjust. Embiid never saw that move from Siakam. Siakam never showed him that one. That's a new move. He got him, a little pump fake. What'll happen in the series is the next time he tries it, Embiid will block it, or he won't fall for it. You see, that's the way that kind of works in the series. You have 7 looks at a team potentially. You have at least 4 looks at a team. And what works in game one doesn't necessarily work in game 2. You see, you'll lose this game, and in game 2, you look at why that team beat you, and then you put together a plan that beats them. And I don't want to hear you don't believe in Doc Rivers doing it. Well, the reality is Doc Rivers isn't the only coach on the team. Doc Rivers isn't even the defensive coach on the team. It'll be on the defensive coach to spend some time with the players, break down to them, show them what Toronto was doing, and counter that. All right, so, and that's what will happen, in the series. Look at Drake there. Look at Drake. Now this brings me to the last thing we do have to talk about, and that's James Harden. Listen, I'd be lying to you if I told you I wasn't concerned about James Harden. In terms of his scoring, I'm not concerned about him totally. He's actually playing a little bit better defense than he's playing a lot better defense than I expected. That's a good thing. What they will have to do is drill that into him. You're gonna have to play defense for us to win. That's number one. And then number 2, I want him to continue doing what he does do well, which is assist the basketball, dish the basketball. Just do that well. That'll be enough for us to win most games and most possessions. What you want to see from James Harden, however, is in those situations where you need him to step up and score, that he does that. And what he needs to do more so, if he's not able to blow by people like he used to, then implement the screen game. What's hurting him, though, is he doesn't utilize any mid-range, which is what I would like to see him do. I wish someone would preach that to him, or I wish he would wake up and see that himself, that if he implemented a mid-range game, that will open up a whole world to him. I don't quite understand what happened, because when you look back to early James Harden in OKC, you'll see more of a mid-range game. When you look at early Harden in Houston, you do see more of a mid-range game. I think what happened was Mike D'Antoni came to the team. And that's another dude I want to talk about. You got some of these people talking about Doc Rivers leaving, D'Antoni coming out. Why the hell would you want to get D'Antoni when your team is based on Joel Embiid, will always be based on Joel Embiid? It's just stupid. Well anyway, what you want to see, I think what happened was D'Antoni came to Houston, and he put in James Harden's mind the futility of the mid-range game, because, he's one of those guys that's of the school of thought that the mid-range game is useless. And this is these analytics people, who believe that if you're going to, they what they've done is they look back at the NBA and they look at overall averages. They don't look at individual players. This is one of the flaws in it. They look at the league averages. They look at overall league players. And they'll say that, the overall league average for mid-range shots, which for them is about 10 to, say, 18 footers, is similar to the percentage for those who shoot three-pointers. It's pretty similar. So the people that are shooting those 10 to 18 footers, generally the league average is pretty much similar to the three-pointer shot. So they're saying you might as well just shoot threes and get rid of the mid-range. And what I'm saying, this is foolishness. This is not a good way to play basketball, because there are players who are excellent mid-range shooters and bad three-point shooters. An example, if you look at Charles Oakley, Anthony Mason, and guys who played on that Knicks team, these guys were excellent two-point shooters, bad mid-range shooters. For some of you young guys who can't relate to that, let's look at DeMar DeRozan, for example. DeMar DeRozan is a guy, like, from mid-range, he's excellent. From the three-point line, not so great. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, all of those guys fell under that category. If you look at what makes Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving better at scoring than James Harden, is the fact that they not only shoot three-pointers or get to the rim, but they also implement a mid-range game. And James Harden, he's built to be a great mid-range player. And he was at one time in Houston. If you look at, you can go right now and go to YouTube and put in James Harden mid-range, and you'll see with the Houston Rockets, he had an array of mid-range scoring, an array of it. And really, there is no great scorer really in the history of the game besides maybe Steph Curry, who didn't implement a mid-range game regularly. And I believe if Steph Curry actually implemented more mid-range, he would actually probably could easily average 35 points a game. All right? The problem with James Harden right now is he's either trying to blow by you, drive to the lane, drive through the hoop, put up a layup or floater, or he's shooting a three-point shot. If he set up more mid-range, he could come off of those screens, stop and pop. That would, I believe right now, that would actually save his career this season and actually possibly moving forward. I wish he would do that. And I wish someone would tell him that. And I know he would be a good mid-range shooter, not only because I've seen him do it in the past, but also he is a great free throw shooter. He's 89% in making his free throws, which is a 15-foot shot. It's a 15-foot shot. If he implemented that in his game, that would save it. And that's really my concern for him. What I'm hoping right now with James Harden, what's happening, is that he has a lingering hamstring situation, and that is very possible. We look at CP3. CP3 right now is a mid-range scorer. CP3 is a guy who went through the hamstring problem. He had that same problem when he was in Houston with James Harden, and this is what really stopped that team from what I believe, winning a title. I believe Chris Paul's hamstring had even more to do with them not scoring than the Warriors, really, because they had the Warriors reeling with their ability to score. But Chris Paul left with a hamstring, and I believe he somehow passed that shit on to James Harden, unfortunately. But listen, Sixers fans, man, I'm not gonna sit there and talk you to death all day. But don't worry about that Toronto loss. Seriously, it's something about when the Sixers lose a game. It seems like everybody believes that this just means that it's doom and gloom and everything's gonna fall apart. So don't believe that. If the Sixers do not make to the finals or championship, it will be because they're going to lose to either the Brooklyn Nets, if somehow miraculously the Brooklyn Nets can just get on a run, or they'll lose to the Milwaukee Bucks. They will not be losing to Toronto Raptors, Chicago Bulls, Cleveland Cavaliers. I almost said Cleveland Browns, Miami Heat, or any of those types of teams. All right, Miami has a better chance than those other teams I mentioned, but really, the only teams I can see is possibly losing to, and it would be a 7-game series. The Sixers team would be a tough out. It would be a 7-game series to either Milwaukee Bucks or the Brooklyn Nets, maybe. And I kind of doubt the Nets, man. So, listen, man, be cool. It'll be all right, man. Today we got the Pacers. I think I definitely expect to win that game, man, and rev up for the playoffs. But that's all I got today, fellas, man. Peace. Be good. I'm